Welcome to another edition of Cadet Chat. I'm Dr. K, and we have a very special show for you today. We're excited to talk to our athletic director. To my left, Mr. Michael Giruzzi, and our head varsity wrestling coach, Coach Gross, Craig Gross, and he's also a physical education teacher here in the district. So before we get started, just a nice opportunity for us to celebrate some of the accomplishments of Mr. Giruzzi. As many of you know, he has announced his retirement at the end of this school year, so just want to take this time to publicly recognize him, which he'll get upset with me for his contributions as a leader here in the district for many years. So we've been very fortunate to move our athletic programs and our physical education programs forward under his leadership. And I also want to celebrate Coach Gross. He has continued the great tradition of wrestling here in the Hilton Central School District, and he's built on that foundation that has happened. So a recognized name nationally in his ability to get the best out of our young men and women who are wrestling. So just a great job. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you very much, Doc.
So outside of celebrating their accomplishments, we wanted to talk about a really awesome event that the district was able to hold, and that was having a Division I wrestling match here at Hilton between Cornell and Binghamton University. So I'm going to start out with Mr. Giruzzi, and then we'll hit Coach Gross and see what their thoughts are and how this kind of came about. So what was the thought process behind that?
You know what? It was actually outstanding. So actually, I think Coach Gross came in to see me, I think it was in March, and said that he had some conversations with the Binghamton head coach, Kyle Borshoff, who happens to be from Section 5. And he's like, they might be interested in doing a Division I wrestling match in our high school gym. You know, I was like, absolutely. We were all in. You know, at that time we had 5 student athletes, 3 at Binghamton, 2 at Cornell. So the opportunity really started from a conversation of Coach Gross and their head coach, and then it just built momentum from there. Got a hold of their coach. We formalized the date, the time, all that good stuff. A whole lot of organization went into it, but it was really the brainchild of Coach Gross and the coach at Binghamton. So we were excited about that once that was, like I said, last March, April.
Absolutely. Well, that's good leadership. You work with people and support people that can bring those visions to reality. So, Coach Gross, tell me a little bit about it. Now, what wrestlers, I think most people know what wrestlers are Hilton alumni on those squads, but for maybe viewers who are not as in tune in the wrestling program here, who are those wrestlers?
The wrestlers that are on Cornell's team are Greg Diakomahalis and his brother Yanni Diakomahalis, which Yanni's going for his 4th national title, trying to make some history this coming weekend. And on Cornell is Sammy and Louis Dupre and Colin Burns.
All right, now not to hit a sensitive point, but with my growing knowledge of wrestling, I know there's some controversy about the fact that Yanni is seated number 2. So talk to us a little bit about how that happens or what goes into the seating of wrestlers in high school, and then, but more importantly, I think the NCAA.
For us in high school, like sectionals, we have a process that we go through. There's certain seating criteria, and it's actually different in college. Mm-hmm. It's actually, for high school, it's different for the state tournament. But he was seated 2nd for the EIWAs, which is their national qualifier, and he ended up winning it. And now is the 1 seed for the Nationals, which is this coming weekend in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh, wow, that's really awesome. Very cool. So you've got to feel pretty good about the work that you've done to support these young men. I know that they work hard as well, and they do a lot of off-season training as well. What did it feel like to, I do recall seeing you on ESPN at the national championship. What did that feel like for you?
The first year that he won it, Yanni likes to do everything in dramatic fashion, and he was actually losing with about 20 seconds left and scored 4 points to win, put his opponent in a cradle, and ended up winning, and same thing the following year. So he always seems to win in dramatic fashion, but just knowing that I helped him along the way, along with a bunch of other people, but knowing I had a part of that, and to have somebody that you coached as a 3-time national champ's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that is pretty special. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. What were some of the logistics that went into making sure that we pulled off? And by the way, it was the same evening as another great tradition here in the district, Evening of Jazz. So I know in the planning process, I was probably a little bit skeptical on how are we going to pull this whole thing off. So talk to me a little bit about how we made it happen. And I would say to our viewers, the reason why those had to happen the same evening was because that was the night that the meet was going to happen, and we don't have control over the NCAA scheduling. And the other event had been on the books for a very long time. Yeah. So how'd you pull it off, Coach?
We pulled it off. I mean, you talk about a team effort. Working with Jared Strife in the music department, Jared and I, we met. We put the logistics together. We actually had it organized, which we were hoping that it would go off without a hitch, and fortunately it did. So when you talk about team effort, it was the music department and us meeting, going over everything from start time of both events, end time of both events, parking, working with our buildings and grounds to make sure that the facilities were ready to go, working with our transportation department because we had shuttle buses ready, working with the building custodians. So we met numerous times. We put really the scope and sequence of the entire night because we knew we'd have about 2,500 people in our high school. But we had about 1,300 to 1,400 in the gymnasium. We had 7 to 8 in the auditorium, and we wanted to make sure that both events went off without a hitch. We had a outstanding Division I event, mind you. I don't believe there's ever been a Division I athletic contest in a high school setting. That might have been the first. We did a little research, able to do that. And the Evening of Jazz, which is such a great event. So it was really a team effort, all of us working together, many meetings, the support of you and our assistant superintendents, our high school principal, Dr. Jeffrey Green. Really everybody worked together, and it was a great night to be a cadet. We really felt that. The entire community was out. Coach Grouse and having those wrestlers being such a big part of our tradition, the number of wrestlers from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s that were in that gymnasium. So it was just awesome, a ton of planning, but when you all come together with one vision and one focus, that's why we were able to make it a success. So it was exciting.
Absolutely. I know I saw a story. I know it's about all the wrestlers in our program, and I know it's about the Hilton Alumni Wrestling for those two different programs. But what I will say is I saw a nice piece on Yanni about how his career was cut short in high school, and he never had that opportunity to wrestle that last match in the gym. So what a magical moment it was for him to be able to come back to his alma mater and wrestle an event. So I thought that was the writers in Hollywood did a nice job with that one. So that was great. So Coach Gross, now so you're ingrained in the wrestling community. What type of feedback did you hear after the event from your wrestlers, your wrestling family, and the greater wrestling community?
We had super sectionals the following day out at SUNY Brockport, and the feedback was phenomenal from parents, from coaches, from wrestlers from other teams that were there. Nothing but positive feedback, and it'd be great to be able to do it again. The coaches from Cornell and Binghamton both thought it was a great event. And they enjoyed the crowd. They don't normally get that size of a crowd at Binghamton or Cornell. Mm-hmm. And so the feedback all around from everybody was just very good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
One thing about back to Yanni is that he wrestled his last high school match in the high school gym against Rush Henrietta, and then like you had said, to wrestle his last college dual meet. Yeah. For his, for Cornell, his college team was pretty cool.
Yeah,
how that came together.
Absolutely, that is neat how that came together. And thanks to both of you for your leadership and your vision to not only make that happen for Yanni, but for just the greater good of the Hilton Learning community. A lot of individuals who either were huge wrestling fans or just really interested in some local entertainment and coming out and supporting the athletes. It was really just a great event for the district. So. So since the Invitational, has there been any other exciting events for Hilton Wrestlers, Coach? Tell us a little bit about, some people have maybe checked in, came to the Division I match. Yes, probably followed your team through sectionals and that. How did the season wrap up? What were some of the individual successes?
Well, we had at Super Sectionals, the following day we had 5 young men to qualify for the state tournament. They went down to Albany and represented Hilton in a great way like they always do. Elijah Diakomalis took second, lost to a very tough opponent in the finals. 3-time state champ that's going to Penn State next year, or committed to Penn State. And then Lana Lazaric was a 12 seed and took 4th. So we had a very good showing, and 4 out of those 5 guys are coming back next year.
All right, excellent. Now, things are winding down a little bit, right, for you? We were talking a little bit about before we got on camera. What do you do now with kind of maybe a little pause, or is it into planning for the other sports you coach, or more wrestling?
Try to get a little family time in. Both my daughters are heavily involved in travel soccer and lacrosse. I'm fortunate to have a very ambitious JV coach. He's already started open mats a week after the states, and we've had a great turnout, up to 30 wrestlers at each session.
Excellent, that's awesome. So, Coach, tell me a little bit about some of our other sports. You know, clearly we're focused on wrestling today, but we're finishing up that winter season. From my understanding, we had a lot of success.
Yeah, it's been awesome. And I think, obviously with our wrestling program, and you talk about them winning 2 sectional titles this year as a team, the numerous number of individual sectional titleists, and like Coach Gross, and that's about his leadership and the work that he does with his coaching staff and getting the most of our kids. But you look across, it's been an outstanding year to be a cadet, if you will, from the fall with our varsity cheerleading and our football team winning sectionals and the great things that they were able to accomplish. Now, this winter season, we just had our boys bowling team come in second at the state tournament. They won a sectional title. Our cheerleading team in the winter won a sectional title, came in second at the state competition. Our individually from boys swimming and diving, we had tremendous success with sectional titles. I think probably the greatest thing is we have such great kids. So we have individuals that achieve and do so well, and our coaches and the leadership they have. So it really is just an awesome time to be a cadet. Today, day 1, as we record this, it's March 13th. The snow shows you that it's not quite spring yet, but our varsity and JV teams begin today. So our spring coaches are ready to move forward and work with our student athletes. So it's such an exciting time. The successes are wonderful, but probably the thing we take great pride in is the type of kid that we have, how they represent Cadet Nation and our coaching staff, the leadership that they foster for our student athletes. Just a great place to be. So, it's been a great year, and we hope that the spring season brings those successes for us also.
Awesome. We have great coaches. We've got great student athletes. We've got great families. One thing I want to talk to you about is something that you brought forward, which was a new initiative last year, and is our strength and conditioning program. So can you talk a little bit about the impact that you've seen from our athletes working with a cutting-edge strength and conditioning coach?
Through your support and the Board of Education support, we were able to add that. And again, in Hilton, we were able to hire Danny Hurleman, owner of HD Performance, a 2010, I believe, graduate of Hilton Central, played in our baseball and hockey program. But what I've seen from our student athletes, those that have been committed, they're feeling stronger. They're competing better. Like, our goal is to give them a strength and conditioning program so they can meet or exceed their abilities within their athletic field, but also feel better about themselves. We believe that if you are healthy, active, getting stronger, that mentally you feel better. And I think what Danny's been able to foster for our student athletes, and we're expanding that for our entire population, looking for them to work with our physical education department and impact more kids. So I think anecdotally, our kids have gotten stronger. Our kids have been in better condition. You talk to Coach Sadowski and the successes we've had in our boys and girls swim programs, and they've been committed. He'll tell you they're stronger. They're so much stronger that they have been in the past. So, philosophically, we're trying to ensure that all of our in-season athletes are training twice a week with HD Performance, and out of season 3 times. And we're working through that. What we talked a lot about is it's a marathon, not a sprint. But I think it has absolutely improved our student athletes and put them in better position for successes on the athletic field. So we're extremely excited about that. Again, we're nearing almost a full year. He started it last August. But absolute gains. I think we see the gains in our wrestling program. We see the gains in our cheerleading program across all of our student athletes.
Yeah, and I love when we meet that it's data-based, right? So we are taking benchmarks of how the students are growing with their strength, and we're able to support the decision to have that because of data. So really seeing the students' strength and flexibility and endurance with all the benchmarks that Coach Hurleman puts in place, absolutely amazing. So thank you for having that vision for our student athletes.
Great.
So, Coach, one more question for you, and then we'll get you out of here because I know you're a busy person. Tell us a little bit about the importance of relationships in coaching and how you've built relationships with the folks that you coach. Because I know you also coach football for us and you do some other things over your career. So tell us a little bit about that.
I think building relationships with not only your coaches but your student athletes is huge. Like if you don't have a good relationship and good rapport with your student athletes, then they're not going to work very hard for you. And if they're not working hard, they're not going to be successful. So I think coaches, you got to have a relationship with your coaches and let them know what their role is in the program. But then on top of that, the student athletes are the most important because they're the ones that are going through the daily grind of practice and trying to improve. And if you don't have good relationships with them, they're not going to want to work for you.
Right. And you and I, all three of us, were athletes at one point in time. You're looking much more like an athlete than I am nowadays. But, the reality is I think you can demand a lot out of your athletes if they know how much you care about them. So Absolutely. It's, sometimes as spectators you see maybe some things happening out there and you're like, oh, geez, that was kind of gruff. But the reality is when you've shown that you care so much about that athlete, sometimes you can have those more stern types of interactions. So I think that's important. And I know how much you care about your student athletes, and I know how much Coach cares and how much he works with our coaches as well. So last but not least, I'll end with Mr. Giruzzi. So if I'm an individual who's interested in participating in athletics here, how do I go about it? What advice do you have for maybe young families who are coming up from the elementary that think, I want to be a wrestler, I want to participate in lacrosse, swimming, etc. All the great offerings that we have. What do we do? How do we go about that?
I will tell you, we have so many outreach types of activities for our youth. You look at all programs from our Hilton Youth, our youth wrestling that Coach Yackel is a big proponent of. We have so many opportunities. If you want your son or daughter to be a part of our athletic program, you have an opportunity. We have grown our offerings. This spring we're starting flag football for the first time here at the high school. So I would say look at our website, the opportunities beginning in 7th grade for our interscholastic athletic teams. Always contact the athletic office with any questions. But even beyond that, we have a great partnership with Hilton Parma Recreation and our youth groups. So throughout the summers, there's camps. There's so many different opportunities that at a young age, kids can be involved. And again, if you're interested in representing Cadet Nation, if you will, there's an opportunity for all kids. Whether it be in the fall, whether it be cross-country running, girls swimming and diving, soccer, field hockey at the varsity and JV level. We have so many different opportunities. So I would say our website, contact our athletic office. If it's a youth sport question, we can connect you with that right organization. So if you're interested in basketball, we can connect you with Hilton Select and their program, and Hilton Parma Rec and their program. There's so many opportunities within our Hilton community, but from an interscholastic standpoint, which we start in 7th grade, if you have questions, contact the athletic office. We'll make sure to point you in the right direction.
All right, I appreciate it. So as we wind down today's interview, is there anything that I didn't ask you gentlemen about the Division I wrestling match that we held, or wrestling, or physical education, or any of the great offerings we hold here in the district as we close the interview out?
I think where we started, that event was so powerful. It was so great. And from our wrestling specific program and the athletes and the pride that they had of being a part of that program, that night was so awesome. Whether it was Yanni signing autographs for 30 minutes after the event, or kids from the class of 2017 or 2012 or 1986 in the gymnasium just beaming ear to ear and reminiscing about being a part of the wrestling program. To do that with a Division I on that stage in our high school gymnasium was just awesome. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that hopefully we'll be able to do again as we move forward, but it was just powerful. It really was.
Great. Coach, anything from you?
I just appreciate all the support to be able to have this event, but the support year in and year out from you for our program, and hopefully we can continue our program to be strong and make it even stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys, because you're leaders in the district. Appreciate your commitment to our student athletes. Want to thank the Board of Education for all their support for everything, as mentioned earlier. So that concludes this edition of Cadet Chat. And once again, I want to thank our very special guests, Coach Craig Gross and our athletic director, Mr. Michael Giruzzi. Thank you. Have a great day.